Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In today's video, I want to talk about LiteSpeed web hosting. So at NameHero, we are known for our super fast hosting, as it's stated here on our main page of our website. Now there's many different components that make this up, but one of the big ones is being LiteSpeed web server. So on all of our web hosting and reseller hosting packages, they include LiteSpeed by default. Now, if you're a VPS or a cloud dedicated customer, of course, you can order a LiteSpeed license onto any one of these services and have that as well. But with our web hosting and our reseller hosting, it is default, installed, and ready to go. So this means if you're a WordPress website owner, a small business, an individual with a blog, you have a WordPress e-commerce store, then you're going to notice a huge speed increase from other web hosts out there that do not offer LiteSpeed. And again, NameHero's private cloud has been optimized for speed, and LiteSpeed is just one of the components, but it's also an important component. So I wanted to talk about it in this video. And also, if you're a reseller, which means maybe you're a web developer, WordPress developer, a plugin developer, or an advertising agency, and you're wanting to resell your clients high-speed web hosting, well, this video is also going to be beneficial because I'm going to provide you with some more details about LiteSpeed that you can also share with them. So let's just talk about WordPress for a second here. I mean, obviously, if you're looking for WordPress hosting, or if you've been using WordPress hosting or using WordPress, you kind of understand how it works. WordPress.org here is their self-hosted version, meaning it's free and open source. You download WordPress to your server, and then you can use it to, whatever web hosts that you would like. Now at NameHero, you can install WordPress with one click. You don't have to go download it at WordPress.org. And if you already have a WordPress website somewhere else at another host, then we of course will migrate that over for you free of charge. But WordPress, it has two main components. It has one, a set of PHP files, and then it has a database. So the PHP files is the core WordPress, your plugins, your themes, and all of that stuff. And then the database has the data. So when you're writing a post, the posts are stored in the database, all your settings are stored in the database, your users are stored in the database. And so what LiteSpeed web server does is it serves these pages really, really fast. So it works on a server level, it's installed, and then your WordPress site will load from that, and that's what generates your pages, and that's why it's so much faster. And in addition, in addition to LiteSpeed, they have their own caching plugin for WordPress, and I'm going to go through some benchmarks here in just a second, which is known to be the fastest WordPress caching plugin out there. So if you've used WordPress for any amount of time, and maybe one of your hosts told you somewhere along the line you need to have a caching plugin, and caching basically means that once a user hits your site, the server doesn't have to continue to generate things like your CSS, your JavaScript. It caches on their computer, it caches on the server, and then their computer doesn't have to pull that resource every single time. So it makes the site even faster. And I know if you've ever had shared hosting before at a company that was kind of slow anyways, and you're like, well, my site's loading slow. They said, well, add a caching plugin. And many of them recommend like W3 Total Cache, and there's many other out there. But with LiteSpeed, they actually have developed their own caching plugin, so it works in conjunction with the web server. So, unlike any other caching plugin out there that's working based off of what they know about the web server, LiteSpeed, it's the same developers. So it just makes sense. They know how to get the most out of their caching plugin. So again, I think you're pretty familiar with WordPress, so I'm not going to go through the actual features of WordPress, but just kind of wanted to highlight that. Now let's go over here and talk about LiteSpeed on their website. So this is LiteSpeedTech.com. And this is their main site. A lot of other web hosts out there, they use the Apache web server, which is free and open source, and it's a great web server. I've used Apache for many, many years. I mean, over 20 years I've used Apache. But LiteSpeed's an actual drop-in replacement for it. So it means it'll operate in the same manner and same fashion as Apache does. So if you have htaccess files, that's a big one, where you set up your redirects, and WordPress uses that to create the SEO-friendly URLs. Everything still works the same. So if you're moving over from another web host that doesn't use LiteSpeed, if you're using Apache, everything's going to move over just fine. So, really, there's no extra configuration on your part. There's nothing extra you have to learn. It's just a piece of software. It drops in place of Apache, free, and then it just works. So again, this video is to really explain the benefits of it. But you as the webmaster, if you're looking for WordPress hosting or you already have WordPress hosting, it's going to just be a lot faster. And then again, if you're a reseller, this is a huge benefit to resell to your customers. Many web hosts out there don't offer LiteSpeed as standard. Most often, if they do offer it, it's an upsell because it is a premium web server. It's not like Apache that's free and open source. You actually have to have a license for it. And that's why if you want it on our VPSs or cloud dedicated, then you just purchase the license, and then of course we'll install it and have everything set up for you as well. But by default, most web hosts don't have it. It's also known to be faster than Nginx. Nginx is also another high speed. It's more of an enterprise-based web server out there. Some web hosts out there do use it, but most of those web hosts also charge a premium. Me personally, I've used Nginx, I've used Apache, and I've used LiteSpeed. I'm a huge LiteSpeed fan. I love the team over there, all the way up from management down to the developers. I think they're on a very great page, on the same page together as far as making a faster internet and really optimizing sites as a whole. So just looking at their site here, feel free to go over to it and read up and learn more about it. There's just so many different features that they offer. Or really, I can't cover them all in this video, but specifically, I just want to talk about WordPress. And you can see on their site, I scroll down just a little bit, the first thing they mention is WordPress performance by server. So you can see here's the LiteSpeed performance, and this is a request per second with 100 users. So you can see how much faster LiteSpeed is. Nginx is here, and Apache's down here. And of course, they also are known to optimize other CMS systems like Magento and just basic PHP applications. But WordPress being so popular, it's of course a heavy focus. So if I click here, you can see LiteSpeed WordPress is up to 12 times faster. So you can look here at NameHero. And as we tout, LiteSpeed's up to 20 times faster with our servers. So it's even more so because you're on our high-speed cloud of our SSD RAID 10 drives. So there's, all this extra speed that you're going to notice on your website. And this is one of the things that really sets NameHero apart. And one of the reasons that I really wanted to set out to accomplish when I started NameHero was to come out with a WordPress web host out there with a premium infrastructure, fast, lightning fast speeds, high uptime, great reliability, and unmatched support 24/7, 365, and doing all of that at an affordable rate. Many people told me, they still tell me nowadays, you're offering a premium infrastructure and a really affordable rate. Ryan, how do you do it? Well, it's been quite the journey to do that. But, it's something that's, I've been around in the industry for, again, 20 plus years. And I've really been looking to, a company I could have to start that could really give back to the industry, to really bring some faith back into the whole web hosting industry. Because over the years, we've seen all kinds of different acquisitions and the consistency is just not where it used to be. And so I believe over the last 5 years, we've really accomplished this at NameHero. And if you go check out some of our reviews, don't take, I don't really want this to come off as a sales pitch for NameHero. Go read the reviews, go try other hosts, go benchmark other hosts and benchmark NameHero, and then you come to your own conclusions. But this is something that we've really focused on. But let's talk a little bit more about their claims here. Here's the actual benchmarks that they have completed, and they go into the details of what they did here. How they specifically set up their website to do these tests. So you can see they even have a methodology they laid out from http2benchmark.org. Kind of let you know that if you want to go replicate this test, you can go do it. If you don't want to take their word for it, but me knowing the LiteSpeed team, I know they wouldn't fabricate this, and I see it. I see the performance every single day. If we go down here, you can see, the summary of things, the request per second, the megabytes per second, failures, header compression, and we get into a bunch of other kind of not complicated stuff, but just more detailed summaries. And if you get down here to the test environment, this is what they use specifically, the exact web servers they tested, the machine that was on, so like memory was 1 gigabytes of RAM, CPU, number of threads, and model, and as far as the disk as well. So at NameHero, we also provide the amount of RAM that you're allowed with each package. So all of this adds to even more performance, like 4 gigs of RAM on the business cloud. So if your site's really popular, or you have a lot of plugins and you want to choose one of these packages versus if your site's just getting started, you start off with the starter. And at NameHero, since we're on the cloud, you can start small and you kind of pay as you grow. Your website gets featured on social media or a post goes viral, you can easily upgrade inside of our interface. Let's go back down here. So that's, just some details about their benchmark. And if I go to this page, you can see they also show not only, WordPress, but they have Magento, Joomla, PrestaShop, OpenCart, Drupal, Varnish, PHP, just basic PHP applications. So if you're not a WordPress user, but you're just a PHP user, then you can just check that out. Look, they even have a small static file. So really it optimizes anything that you're going to be hosting on your account. And so feel free to go through those. What else I got here? Finally is their LiteSpeed Cash. So LiteSpeed Cash, I think it's been out for about 2.5 years now. And as soon as it came out, we started really featuring it at NameHero, because since I started NameHero 5 years ago and before LiteSpeed Cash came out, there were still customers that signed up and they loved the performance, but they've been so used to caching at other web hosts, especially other web hosts that offer shared hosting and not really a premium environment. Their sites loaded slow. So they came to NameHero and it was really fast, but they're like, well, we're used to using caching, so we still want to, what cache do you recommend? And that was another thing, like what caching plugin do I recommend? Because there's so many out there. So, we went back and forth all the time on it, and I would never just come out and recommend just one, because I didn't know the development teams. But once LiteSpeed came out with theirs, I was done. I was a believer from day one. And, I'm not just a believer, I use them on my own website. So it's not something that I'm just telling everyone else to use. It's something that I use too. And some things I see in our support department, the amount of speed that LiteSpeed Cash can bring to a website, it's amazing. Install it and set it up on your site, and I'm going to show you how to do that at the end of this video. And I think you'll be very, very pleased with the results and the performance and everything you can tweak with it. But here's their benchmarks with it. They've got a couple things here. So they've got without Keep Alive and with Keep Alive on. And for some reason, these don't show that nice, but if I hover over them, I don't know if I can make these, it won't let me highlight these much, but they've got the summary here. But I guess you can just see in these charts, if you can read through here good enough. So they've got Apache with WP Rocket, Apache with W3 Total Cache, Nginx with Fast CGI, LiteSpeed Web Server with W3 Total Cache, LiteSpeed Web Server with WP Rocket, then LiteSpeed Web Server with LiteSpeed Cash. So I don't know how I read that, but I was able to read it because it is tough to see. But basically this is with 100 users, just like on their other benchmark, and it shows them outperforming all those other setups or configurations or caching plugins. So this is their actual benchmarks. And if we go down here, you can see they show the concurrent users, the number of users that were hitting the site at once, and they tested from 10 to 100. And then they also show this setup here as well. Apache WP Rocket, Apache W3 Total Cache, Nginx Fast CGI, LiteSpeed Web Server with W3 Total Cache, and with WP Rocket. So, and they also give their test environment as well, so you can go duplicate it. But again, this is just kind of showing their actual benchmark tests that they've done, so we can back up that claim that LiteSpeed Cache is the fastest WordPress caching plugin out there. And some other hosts that compete against NameHero, they've developed their own caching plugins, and that's great. Of course, I welcome that. Me from a CEO standpoint at NameHero, I've said this many times on our YouTube channel and on our blog. We stick to what we're really good at NameHero, and that's web hosting, that's servers, it's configuration, that's customer service and support. We're not a software company. We like to partner with the best software vendors in the industry: LiteSpeed, cPanel, Cloud Linux, Immunify 360, and we let them do what they are very best. So we can focus on the hosting part, and our vendors can focus on the software part, because with software, there's obviously continuous updates that have to be done. If NameHero comes out with a caching plugin, it's great and all, but then 3 months later, it's got to change a lot in that 3-month period, and 6 months and 12 months and so forth and so on. So instead of taking on a software undertaking, we allow our vendors to do what's best, and then we continually work with them and test and troubleshoot and beta test and give feedback. And so again, I think that's why this project really impresses me with LiteSpeed, is because they've just continued on. And since they introduced this plugin, and this test, I don't know if they have a date on it, but I know it's gotten a lot better since even the beginning. So it was amazing when they first came out with it, but some of the features and fixes and patches and all that they've released have made this even faster. So check out this to kind of back up the benchmarks and claims that I'm talking about. So let's head back over here to NameHero, and let's talk about just our hosting packages for a second. So these are our basic web hosting packages. You say, well, Ryan, I have other videos I've just filmed recently on, what hosting package do you need for your website? I would say that, if someone asks me, I need hosting, where do I go? I say start here. Go to NameHero, start with our web hosting packages and look at them. And basically, we put about how many visitors a month should go with each package. Now, we don't limit or cap your visitors. You might reach well over 100,000 a month, fine with our business cloud. Our starter cloud, you might reach well over 10,000, or you could reach less. It really depends on how many plugins you have if you're using WordPress, and how good of theme is coded that you're using, or how many database calls. So there's a lot of different factors. But really, from my experience working online, this visitor number is a good indicator of which package that you should choose. And so if you come on here and you're getting way over 100,000 visitors a month, maybe you're getting 100,000 visitors a day, well, then you probably should not be looking in this section. You should probably jump over to the VPS or cloud dedicated section if you're getting 100,000 visitors a day. Resellers, if you're looking to resell high quality WordPress hosting, these same type of packages, then that's the type of package you need to be looking for. If you're an ad agency, digital marketing agency, or a webmaster with multiple websites, kind of like myself has been all these years, then reseller hosting is also good because it allows you the ability to deploy multiple hosting packages for different domains. It allows you to set up multiple accounts. So that's kind of in a nutshell what you should be looking for. But again, I think 9 out of 10 customers start here. And the cool thing here about us here at NameHero is we are on our high-speed cloud, so you can upgrade at any time. Some of our customers are fine with all of these packages, but then comes the holiday shopping season and they're running an e-commerce store and they're going to get all these hits for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And so some of these clients will take whatever package they have and will say, I need to move up to a VPS or a cloud dedicated for this shopping season, and they'll come back down. So, whatever decision you make, we try to make it extremely easy on you to come in and not overpay for a bunch of resources that you don't need year round. And then if you do need them, they are available for you, and you can just upgrade and kind of pay as you go, so you're not wasting your budget. I've ran internet businesses since the late 90s. I understand what it feels like to pay for a bunch of stuff that I'm only using maybe one time a year or a couple times a year, and that's not fun. So at NameHero, this is where I recommend that you do get started. And so with that said, the starter is kind of what it says. If you're just starting your site, if you're a small to mid-sized business that's not online focused, I always use my dad as an example. He owns a self-storage facility, mini storage units. It's where people go and they store stuff that they can't fit in their house. They go rent a storage unit, or maybe they're moving to a new location. And so his business is offline. However, those customers go to his site to pay. They pay their monthly bill instead of coming into his store or to his office. They go online and pay. So he's the type that's going to look at, one of these packages here, to where he doesn't have a ton of files. He just needs a presence. He needs information about his business online, but he needs the ability for his customers to pay. But he's not going to be reaching 100,000 visitors a month. He just needs a site set up. So I think that's really what you need to be looking at. If is your business online or offline? And if it's offline, then you can probably go lower. If it's an online based business, then obviously you need a little bit more RAM. You need a little bit more inodes, which you can see under the files, or under the storage. How many files does your website have? If you're going to be using email, then you also want to check out, I recommend the Turbo or Business. If you're going to have tons of different email accounts, if you have a business with like 20 people and you're going to set up 20 email accounts, then you want to kind of look on this end. So it really depends on, how many visitors your site's getting, how big's your organization, and what are you really trying to accomplish. These are also, each one of our packages, it depends on on how many websites you need to host. The starter cloud is just one hosting for one website. The Plus is 6, and the Turbo and Business is unlimited. So our most popular package is the Plus, I would say. It's a split between the Plus and the Turbo. People like my dad with just one website, they need the ability, he needs the ability to host more than one website because at specific times of the year, he's found himself sometimes setting up a new domain for billboard advertising so he can kind of track his campaigns a little bit better for radio and television as well. So the Plus package allows you to host 6 websites, which is beneficial for that. So if he launches a new billboard campaign where he's putting physical billboards out around the city, advertising his storage, he can put a different website that's shorter or relevant to that campaign, and he can set up hosting for it in his existing account. He doesn't have to go buy another package. And so that's probably going to be relevant to a lot of you out there watching this. So I think that's why it's our most popular package. It's just a couple dollars more a month, and then you have that ability. And you also get 2 gigabytes of RAM versus 1, so you're going to see higher performance and be able to use more dynamic plugins. Now, if you're a WordPress user that has an e-commerce store, back to the online part, online versus offline business, then you definitely need to be focusing at Turbo or Business. And I'd say a lot of successful WordPress e-commerce stores, those that are really pulling in some nice orders, they normally go right off the bat with the Business, but the Turbo is a good stepping stone as well. And again, you can upgrade inside of our interface in real time, have immediate access to these new resources, so it's not hard to do if you need to make that decision. The last thing I'll say, and then I'm going to walk you through an example setup, is these prices that you see. We're currently running our fall special, and we're about to transition from fall to winter here. And so these prices are going to change up a little bit. So whenever you're watching this video, we cannot guarantee that it's this rate. It could be a different sale. It could be any type of rate. So we can't guarantee that. And I always like to mention that in our videos because sometimes people will send a link to our sales team in the support area, and I'll say, well, that video was filmed a while ago before you watched it, and that sale's no longer active. So there's my disclaimer on that. And also, these prices are broken down into billing terms. So if I hover over the Plus Cloud, and you can see, I can choose how long I want to order my hosting. So the longer, if you prepay for 3 years, you save more than prepaying for 1 year. With our starter and our Plus, these are not available monthly, month to month. It's 1 year, 2 years, 3, 1, 2, and 3. And so again, this kind of goes back to the example of my father's business. He's an offline business. Last thing he wants to worry about is a monthly online payment because, his site's got to be online and he doesn't have to worry about going in and paying for that every single month. So he likes to pay 3 years in advance. So every 3 years he worries about it. I can't tell you how many times at NameHero we've seen customers on month to month, and we used to offer that at one time. Their credit card expires. They go on vacation. They forget. They just completely forget about it. So I'm like, my dad, he knows he needs a website. It's online, but he's also not on there every day updating it because the content really doesn't change a whole lot. He doesn't have a blog, and I know he probably should, but he doesn't. So prepaying the account allows it to stay online and not run into any issues. And again, I can't tell you how many customers, when we used to offer these month to month, would have that credit card expire, would go on vacation, then the site would be suspended, and that looks, really bad to customers. And in my dad's case, it's crucial because if his site's suspended, how can his customers pay? And then, God forbid, I've also seen instances where they don't pay for so long, and eventually the account's terminated. We only hold the account for so long past the due date, and we've seen cases before where people were just simply gone or away, and they come back and their account's gone. So that's why we kind of have that on there, or that's why we do that. It starts at 1 year, 2 years, and 3. And so the longer you decide to sign up, the more you are going to save, because we also want to reward those customers that want to prepay and put that trust in us here at NameHero. And I promise that trust isn't something that we take for granted. And I completely understand it's not something we're going to gain overnight. I'm not going to gain your trust, you watching this video, but I promise me and my team will work tirelessly to ensure that we earn that trust and we also sustain that trust, because I know it can be lost. It takes a long time to gain, but it can be lost overnight. It can be lost overnight, and that's something that we really try to nurture. We really value our clients and those relationships. So just for what that's worth. Now, the Turbo and Business, they are available monthly. And this kind of goes into, if you're operating an online business, you're going to be on your site a lot, and if it goes down or you miss miss that payment, you're going to see it pretty quickly. So these are available monthly, but you do still save a good bit by prepaying. So, you can 1 month, 1 year, 2 or 3 years, and same over here. So if you want a really good monthly rate, I recommend going with 3 years. If you just want to pay month to month, then you can. Me personally, anytime I can prepay a bill and get it out of the way, especially here, right now it's November, and we're looking at tax write-offs for next year. What a better way than prepay hosting for the next 3 years and get a nice little deduction in this year. So it's however you want to go about it. We've seen a lot of success that way, and that comes from feedback from our customers here at NameHero. So you can make your decision however you wish to pay. Our current sale is 35% off your first invoice. So this is also important. If you go month to month, your first invoice is the first month. So you only get this 35% off for that one invoice. Whereas if you sign up for 3 years, you're going to get this 35% off for the entire 3 years, not just 1 month, not just 1 year. And so that's another big incentive and some motivation to get that out of the way and to get the payment out of the way, and also save really big. So you're your own person, you decide what works best for you, but that's just kind of my suggestions and what we've seen from our customers. So let's say that I operate a small to mid-sized business and I want to get online, and I'm going to select just this Plus Cloud since it is probably arguably our most popular. So I'm going to order it for 3 years. When I go to sign up, I've got 3 different options. I can register a new domain. So all accounts that are prepaid 2 years or more, so 2 years or more, not the monthly or the yearly, they come with a free domain registration. So you're not going to have to pay for this. It's included in the package. So if you're just starting your site, there's another incentive right there. If you already have your domain, let's say that you have another host, you already have your domain and hosting all set up, you can transfer it over to us, and that's also free. And it's included with 2 years and more, so 2 or 3 year terms, it's free. And when you transfer it over, it also gives you an extra year on the domain, so you save even more right there. And all you need to do is enter your domain here and select it, and then the next screen will guide you through what we need to move that domain over. The third option is if you already have your domain with us at NameHero, you would enter it here. Or if you say, Ryan, NameHero looks great, but I'm not sold yet, so I'm not going to move everything on over. I'm going to keep my domain at GoDaddy, or I'm going to keep my domain at Namecheap, and I'll update my own name servers. And so that's appropriate. So of course we have that option as well. For my demo here, I've got a domain inside my account already at NameHero, so I'm not going to register a new one. I'm going to use the domain realbonds.com. It's just an example domain, but I'll pretend like I'm a small business here signing up. Go to next. So we're just going to confirm the options of our hosting package to make sure we've selected the right one. We do have a data center in the Netherlands. So in NameHero, we are based in the United States, and most of our customers are in the United States, Canada, Mexico, and North America, or in North America primarily. But we do have grown quite substantially over the last 5 years into the European Union. And so countries like the United Kingdom, Netherlands, we do have a pretty heavy presence over there. So if you're over there, you can also select our Netherlands data center, and it was actually back here on this page. If you just kind of scroll down right here, you can see, you just click NL and you'll see it changes to Netherlands data center. So that's kind of something new that we've introduced to NameHero, and I didn't mention it earlier, so that's important to know. But this kind of highlights how many sites you can host, the storage that you get. We don't limit on storage, we only limit on files, or also referred to as inodes. It's 250,000 for the starter and plus, and really rarely do we see a customer go over this. The only times that, or most only times, 98% of the time that we see people hit this, it's because they have tons of emails and they've either forgotten to clean out a junk box, a spam box, or they have an inbox they haven't checked in 2 or 3 years. And I know that there's some people out there watching it that's like that. And my wife, for an example, she's got 30,000 emails in her inbox. I work online. My inbox is sitting at 5 right now, but this is the difference in personalities and difference between me working online and, of course, my wife not. So I think you'll be fine there. Bandwidth is unmetered. The CPU cores, the amount of CPU power, processing power, you have access to 2 full cores, 2 gigabytes of RAM. The LiteSpeed Cash is free. Cloudflare is free. SSL is free, so you get a free SSL certificate. Nowadays on the internet, SSL is a requirement. If you notice up here, you'll see the lock beside NameHero. And obviously, we're taking credit card transactions, so SSL is absolute must. So if your website's doing that, it is an absolute must. But also, if your site doesn't have this now, Google Chrome puts a nice not secure warning at the top. So even people like my dad's website, it needs to say secure, because how many visitors are going to click off your site if it says not secure? So I think that's only as we get into 2020, 2021, SSL is completely necessary, and so it's free at NameHero, and it's only free. It's automatic, so you don't have to do anything. It just installs and sets up automatically. You don't have to go and order an SSL cert or install it. Okay, so we got some options when you go to sign up. At NameHero, we have free and automatic backups every night. So if you accidentally delete something or need to revert to a backup, you can right inside of cPanel. We have 1 day's retention for free, so you get 1 day free. But if you need to add up to 30 days, you can for $1.99 for 5 gigabytes. And so this is through our vendor, Drop My Site, and they're a completely off-site, different data center. And some clients like this too for redundancy. It kind of keeps an extra backup even outside of NameHero, which I still don't think is bad. Even though we do everything in our power to keep your data safe, you always have another extra spot. Some customers like to do their own backups, maybe locally or to another server, so they don't select this. I like Drop My Site because it's automatic. It backs up your files, so your WordPress files, your themes, your plugins, but also backs up those databases or your database, or if you have more than one, so your changes. And so you can click and point and restore from up to 30 days ago. So sometimes we see with our complimentary backups, someone says, I need to restore my site to last Monday or last Wednesday or 2 weeks ago. And with our complimentary backups, there's only 1 day's worth. So this is certainly helpful in there. I would say probably most customers that don't put this on here, they come back and add it later. And so you can do that as well. But it's $1.99 a month. And really, it's not, in the grand scheme of things, $1.99 a month. If you look at the time you would spend if you lose data, it's a lot more than that. A dedicated IP address. So if you're going to be sending emails, if you're going to be using us here at NameHero for an email service, I recommend this because it gives you the highest level of email deliverability. So if you've ever sent emails on the internet or through a web hosting account, sometimes they don't reach the inbox; they hit the spam box. And because this is shared web hosting, sometimes email service providers look at that as not as high of quality. So if you use a dedicated IP address, it gives the appearance that you're on a dedicated server. And so basically I tell customers to put this brief: are you using email? Yes. If not, no. Some customers, and a lot of customers, they like to use G Suite, formerly Google Apps, Zoho Mail. Some of them just use their own Yahoo accounts or whatnot. So if you're not going to be using the email, if you're using one of those third-party vendors, then you don't need this. If you are, I recommend it. And this is something you can always come back and add. We have another feature called automatic malware scanning with file cleanup. So this is fantastic for WordPress. WordPress, it's free and open source. That means anyone can go to wordpress.org and download it. So bad guys and gals included. And because it's open source, that means that some evil actors out there will actually figure out ways to inject malicious code into your site. And there's many different reasons they do this. Sometimes they want to compromise the site. Sometimes they're just trying to use your email account to send out emails. But for whatever reason, why that happens, every night and automatically we're scanning your files for malware. So if you do get a malware injection, especially if you like to run outdated versions of WordPress, which we never recommend, they're susceptible to malicious files because they're outdated. There's security loopholes. So our malware scanner with file cleanup means if we ever detect malware in your site, the malware scanner is smart. It has artificial intelligence. It'll go through and clean the files for you. So a traditional malware scanner, because we still scan it, you're going to get malware scanning no matter what, but it then takes a file and quarantines it, which means it doesn't delete it, but it renders it useless. And the problem with this is sometimes it will break your site. If you've ever had the white page of death from WordPress, you understand what I'm talking about. If your site's broken, of course, it's no good. So you have to get on and actually go clean that up manually. If you've ever cleaned up malware in WordPress, you've probably wanted to pull your hair out. I know I personally have. The automatic file cleanup's awesome. awesome. It literally will clean your files for you. If malware is detected, it goes in, what files are infected, and it cleans it up for you. And it's $5 a month. So if you want this, great. If you don't have to have it. But man, I'll tell you what, if you ever cleaned up one with malware, you pay this $5 all day long. SSL certificates. Let's Encrypt is who we use for the free and automatic SSL. It's 100% free and automatic. We have had recently the request from some of our e-commerce WordPress websites, and they want a domain validated certificate from another trusted authority. They don't want to use Let's Encrypt because it is a free authority, and so some of them feel that it's more it looks more professional. Some require it for different compliances and stuff. So it's really up to you. If you're an e-commerce site, you might want to add this. It's $1.94 a month to add the global sign domain validated. You also do get the Let's Encrypt as well. So you're going to have the free and automatic SSL, but you also get this additional premium SSL certificate. So it's up to you. For this type of website, if my dad was coming to sign up, that's who I like to reference all the time, then I would tell him, you should probably just stick with Let's Encrypt. But if you are an e-commerce site and you're accepting credit card transactions, you might want to give that a look, or look at your merchant processor and see what the requirements are. All right, and we'll continue on. Okay, so now this is a checkout summary, and to kind of list everything we just talked about, and just kind of these are going to be on your first invoice. And you can see with our current fast fall special, it saves you $301. So it's about what is 25 or 35% off. So kind of pushing on that 50% off. So, tremendous savings here going with us here for 3 years. So you're going to save the most. I can't go month to month on the Plus Cloud, but even if I go for a year, I only get that 35% off on 12 months. If I sign up for 3 years, I get that 35% off 3 years. It's however you want to do it, but really this is the only payment you have to make for that 3-year period. And also it's interesting too, or not interesting, but this is something we do at NameHero. If you ever need to upgrade at any time, if you need to upgrade to the business package, if you need to go to a VPS, we'll credit what you've already paid to that new package. No money is ever lost. So you can apply that to your next package if you need to upgrade before 3 years is up. Because of course I've been in those situations before where I've had a business or website just take off and get way more visitors than I originally planned when I signed up for hosting. So, this will be, this is held in your account at NameHero. And then if you need to upgrade before 3 years, you can of course do that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and complete the checkout process, and then I'm going to show you just really quick how to install WordPress because it is that fast, and then I'm going to show you how to install that LiteSpeed caching plugin because it's also that fast and easy to do, and then we'll just take it from there. So just give me 1 second while I pause this and complete my setup. I've completed my sign up, and if you're following along, you're going to see we have this survey that pops up. Another thing that's very important to us here at NameHero, and this was also very important to when I started NameHero, was to offer 24/7, 365 customer service and support by superheroes is what we call it, and that's one of the reasons why heroes in our name. We want to make sure that you're taken care of. That if you had questions about this before you made your order, that our team helped you out, that you called, you got an answer that was satisfactory. If you live chatted us or sent us a ticket, then we got back to you in time and answered all your questions. So, and also if this video helped you make your decision, we certainly do appreciate all 5 stars. It's up to you what you want to give us, but we certainly do appreciate that. Then you also have the ability to leave a message, and this is public, so you can share it, kind of pay it forward to other users. Reviews now are everything, and NameHero is no exception to the rule. Me personally, I review everything. If I'm in a store buying something at Target or Sam's Club or even Walmart, I'm Googling it to read reviews. So, this certainly helps others out there that, might be like you. So we certainly really appreciate that. I always tell my wife, I like to see these come in more than I do revenue come in. We consider ourselves to be, our customers are way above our profits. We want to make our customers have a great experience. So this also just helps, you share your experience with others, to kind of, so we can continue creating the community here at NameHero with our core values. And also we ask, why did you choose NameHero? If you chose us because you watch Ryan on YouTube, I watch Ryan on YouTube. He was showing me the service, it looked cool, that's why I tried it. But of course, that also helps us out. If you want to leave your name, you can. Again, this is public, so you don't have to. If you just leave it blank, it says anonymous. Your email is not public, so your email will never be sold, email marketed to, spam, nothing like that. I hate spam. This is just so we can follow up, and you can see it's populated in from your account, so you can change it to something different if you want to follow up at a different email address. Now, of course, this is not required. If you, Ryan, you got to prove NameHero before I go filling out a survey. I get it. Just click the X up here. Not required. Okay, so now my order's confirmed. I'm gonna go to the client area. The first thing I need to do after I sign up is set up my name servers if I didn't register my domain with NameHero. So if you transferred your domain, or if you said, check the third box, remember that I'm going to update my name servers. And so this is for those of you watching this that kept your domain at GoDaddy or Namecheap or wherever. You need to actually log in at this point in time if you're following along and change those to NameHero. So in my example, if you recall, I said I was going to update mine. I said I already have my domain in NameHero. So what I want to do is click on Cloud Web Hosting, and I'm looking for plus hosting, so I have real bonds here. I guess the first thing that someone's going to ask in the comments is, why is this red? This is because the SSL is not yet detected. It takes 24 hours, about 24 hours from the time that you set the DNS for the SSL to generate. So once it generates, it'll turn green. So don't really, I think this doesn't update in real time, so don't freak out if it's still red. It will generate and turn green, and if it stays red for 24 hours after you update your DNS, feel free to reach out to us, but that will turn green. So I'm going to click plus hosting, and if I go down here, I need to manage my domain, because the first thing is I need to make sure my domain's using these name servers. Updating your domain's name servers is what binds the domain to the hosting. So this is what allows you to have your domain at GoDaddy or Namecheap if you did not transfer it or if you did not register it with us, and connects it to our hosting. So now my domain is at NameHero, so I've got this option right here, Manage Domain. So I'm going to click it. And I just have to make sure that I'm using these name servers. And so these are all different at NameHero, so don't go set yours to this. Look at your hosting package, because they're different on whatever hosting package you signed up on. Even if you signed up for a Plus hosting account, another Plus cloud account, they're probably going to be different than what's in this video. So they will say, all the information you need will be in your account in the same area. So if I click my domain, Real Bonds, I can click Name Servers. And you can see mine are set. I already set them before this video. I kind of cheated. But you just want to make sure these match what's in here for your account. And then once you're finished, you click Change Name Servers. Now, if you have a site, an existing site, and you've changed the name servers, if you're bringing data over, you obviously want to move the data before you change the name servers, because once you change the name servers, it's live. It's going to be live to the internet. So if you need to move data over, make sure you go to support and go to tickets and open a new migration ticket, which is free within the first 30 days of your account, because we can move your data from your other host. Or if you want to upload your own data, that's fine. But once you change those name servers, your visitors, your customers are going to see the new hosting. So make sure you do that first. Now, also, it's important to note, when you change your name servers, sometimes it's not just instant. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not, because the internet has to go populate this, and it's dependent on your internet service provider. So if you've been to your website, 5 minutes before signing up at NameHero, then your internet service provider has cached the name servers from your old web host, your current web host. So once you change them, it takes some time for that cache on your ISP to flush. So you can read, we got tutorials on our YouTube channel as well as our blog, and you can Google this. You can sometimes go unplug your router and plug it back in. But just remember, when you're changing your name servers, it might not be instantaneous that it changes over. And if you're one of our international customers, some countries, it takes even longer than, it takes 24 to 48 hours. Most US ISPs nowadays, about an hour, and it's changed over. And again, some you can just go unplug the modem and reboot it to reboot your computer, and it'll flush that out. So there's options out there, but just don't freak out if you change your name servers and you're not seeing your new hosting right away. But for mine, it's propagated and we're all set to go. So in this next part of the video, I just want to show you how to install WordPress, because we're just going to pretend I'm going to do it from scratch, and I'll show you about that LiteSpeed Cash plugin. So I want to go into cPanel, and you can see there's a login link here, and there's a login link here, and you also get the login link and credentials and stuff in an email. So you'll get that emailed to you in your welcome email. But you can click right here and log in. And cPanel is the world's most popular control panel. It's who we partner with here at NameHero. And if you've ever had web hosting before, your other hosts, it's most likely they've used cPanel. So I would assume a lot of people watching this video are fairly familiar with cPanel. But if you're not, no worries. It's just point and click. It's no different than using Windows, or if you're using Mac OS like myself, it's no different than that. Anything you need to do, you can point and click. You don't have to use, as we head to 2020, there's really not a need anymore to have software or programs on your computer to edit your website. I mean, to FTP or whatnot, that's still doable, but you're not going to really have to do that here at NameHero. Well, I want to scroll down here and I want to install WordPress. So I'm going to go down here to Softaculous Apps Installer, and you're going to see WordPress. And so using Softaculous, I can install WordPress with one click in 5 minutes, or under that, because we're going to do it. I can also set up a staging environment. So if I want to copy my site and go make changes somewhere where my live visitors can't see it, and then publish it back to the live site, I can do that. I can clone my sites as well. I can update WordPress automatically. I can update my plugins and themes. So it's very, very powerful. And again, you don't have to know code, or you don't have to have any software on your computer. So I'm going to click WordPress. So I'm brought into Softaculous. Yeah, let's get some information about WordPress. A lot of this, if you're familiar with WordPress, you already know, so there's no need for it. But one thing I will mention, if you're moving from another web host and you want to use Softaculous to have some of those features such as staging, cloning, auto updates and stuff, you can click import. And all you have to do is enter your website. That's, as long as we've moved the files over, so maybe you did a migration with us, and click import, and it will put it inside of here as well. So if you want to use Softaculous, which I think you should, that's how it's done. But if it's a fresh install, you just click install now, and we can go through the setup really quick. So you can do the quick install. And this is the easiest. Custom install has a little bit more details. If you're just getting started, really the quick install does everything you need. First thing is setting the version of WordPress that you want. I always recommend the latest and greatest. Some people like to use older versions, but I don't recommend that for production. Some people, especially if they're migrating from other hosts, they might use an older version and then migrate the database themselves. Some people use WordPress plugins to migrate their site. So that's kind of why we have these other versions available. But I would certainly highly advised to get to the latest version as soon as you can. 5.3, actually, this is November 2019. I'm filming this. It just came out pretty recently. So I know some people are still at 5.2.4, which is fine. 5.2.4 is fine for a couple more weeks, but use that to your discretion. When you're watching this video, it might be 6.0. So, just the latest version is what I recommend, especially if it's a new site, definitely the latest version. Okay, next is where you want to install WordPress. So when I go to realbonds.com, I want the customers or the visitors to see the website immediately, to see WordPress. So I do not want to install it in a subdirectory. So I'm going to delete that. So make sure you leave this blank if you want when someone goes to your site to see WordPress. Some people are installing WordPress just for their blog, and so they want it in a directory like realbonds.com/blog or realbonds.com/whatever. But most people, want this on their root domain, so they leave this blank. Your admin account, this is how you log into your WP admin, which is how you create pages and you create posts, you add themes or modify themes or about your site. Do not use admin and pass. That is the absolute worst thing you can do. If there's nothing else you get out of this video, please do not do that. If someone's trying to get into your WordPress, this is the first thing they're going to use. And not only someone, there's bots out there that are going to try this. So don't do that. Please don't do that. So use something like, I'm just going to use like RYG or anyway, so RY Gray 2020. So use a combination of letters and numbers. No special characters here, but something that someone would not guess, or even a bot. And then click this key to set a strong password. This is a password generator. And so what I like to do is copy this and paste it again. I wrote some of it. to make that really, really strong. So, and then save this somewhere. Save this, write it down, or save it locally on your computer. You don't want someone to find that, but it should not be a password that you can remember. You should use a password manager. That's what I do. I use a password manager called LastPass, which saves this in my browser on my computer to keep it safe and secure. You should not know your password. Your admin email, this is important because in case you get locked out of your account, and I'm telling you, you should not remember this. So if you don't remember where you wrote it down, or you wrote it down incorrectly, you could reset it with your email address. So make sure by default it goes to admin at whatever. So I would use like Ryan at NameHero.com because I know that's a working email. Make sure you enter a working email on that. You can always change that later too. You can set up custom plugins here, like they have Loginizer and the Classic Editor. So if you want to have a plugin to limit, this protects you from brute force attempts. So if someone's trying, or a bot's trying to forcefully log into your WP admin, this plugin will protect you. At NameHero, we have a unique security suite for WordPress to where we also protect against brute force attacks. So this isn't a requirement, but if you want to, you can. The Classic Editor in WordPress 5.0, they introduced a new editor called Gutenberg. Gutenberg's more of a drag and drop block editor. The Classic Editor is more of kind of your old school editor. I have several videos here on YouTube about when WordPress 5.0 came out, and at first I hated it, but nowadays I really like Gutenberg. And it's one of those things that I'm always hesitant to change, especially I've been using WordPress since the 90s or early 2000s for full sites, and it was quite the change, but I really do like it. But if you're not yet on Gutenberg, you can still use the Classic Editor. They're keeping that updated for quite some time. I do want to use Gutenberg, so I'm not going to mess with this. We do have some free premium themes at NameHero, so you can scroll through here and pick a theme or a design for your site if you don't want to use the default WordPress theme. The default WordPress theme is not good at all. I don't like it. So, I'd recommend using one of these or getting a premium theme from somewhere. These are free though, so you don't have to pay for these, and you can just select them here. You can click search. The search box kind of sucks though, but you can, you search through here if you can get through their tedious search engine. I don't like the search engine. This is from Softaculous, but I like to look through these. Some of these are pretty good. So if there's some healthcare sites and consulting, so different type of sites. So if you want a free theme, this is where you can do it to make the site look more professional. If I always use an extra theme or a third-party theme, but I get it from a reputable developer or designer, and I like to pay for mine because I like to pay not only just for a theme, but for updates, so when WordPress updates, the theme updates with it. And so I really suggest that's what you should do. And I've got some more videos on YouTube that will tell you the theme developers and the places to go buy premium themes that I recommend and that I use. Once that's all said and done, you can email the installation details. You can email this to yourself if you have a business partner, if you've got a web designer or whatnot, but whoever you send this to, make sure you trust, because it gives details about your account. I don't think it does not send your password, but it's going to send like install location. So, I recommend only sending this to yourself or, trusted business partner, or, maybe if you have your spouse or partner involved in your business, maybe send it to them so they have the details as well. So I'm going to click install, and, gone are the days of downloading WordPress from WordPress.org and uploading and creating database. You don't have to do that anymore, because before I could even spit that out, WordPress is installed. So now if I go to Real Bonds, you can see WordPress is installed. And, actually, WordPress 5.3, this is their new theme that came out. It's not horrible. This is their default design. And I don't know what they call this actually yet, but you can see it's not horrible. It's not near as bad as in years past. Glad to see it. They've kind of made some progress with it. But this is my site now. It's ready to be edited. If I click on here, I can go to my admin URL. And this is where I make all my edits. This is the back end. This is the front end. This is what visitors, customers see, and this is only for your eyes. And this is accessed at /WP-admin or WP-admin is where you would access this. And that username and password we created in just that last step, that's what logs into here. Since I clicked right from here, it automatically logs me in, but that's how I would get back in. So now, WordPress is installed. My site's ready to go. If I go to Appearance and Themes, You can see, so this is called 2020. All right, so 2020, they've made some progress on their default theme. 2019, 2017, each year they come out with a new custom theme, and it looks like they go back just to 2016. And they've made great progress this year, but these are just the default WordPress themes. Most people don't use these, just they're free and they work. But I also think these are good to have, because in case you install a premium theme and the site doesn't work, sometimes in our support department we'll say, hey, let's activate the default WordPress theme just to see if the site works then. So they're great for troubleshooting and to making sure that everything, if it works on the default theme and then the server side's working, then it's a theme problem. So the default themes are very useful for that. We're going to need that SSL certificate because you can see this not secure warning that I was just talking about. So at NameHero, the SSL is free and automatic. If you purchased a premium theme, a premium SSL certificate, you can log a ticket with us and we'll generate that for you, right now on the fly or whenever you want it. So if you can go and claim that if you purchased it, support tickets, and we'll certainly get that installed for you and all set up. You don't have to do anything. But for the free one, if I go back to cPanel, I think I can click over, from right here. What happens is in 24 hours, it automatically installs when your DNS resolves. But you can see here, the DV certificate from Let's Encrypt is installed. And I think, I can click this here. Maybe not. It should show in here. I think my browser's blocking it. But it's already installed here. So regardless, if I click this lock, you can see the certificate's valid. It's from Let's Encrypt Authority. And we're all set. So it did not take 24 hours for it to install on my site. And most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time it installs almost instantaneously. But we always say, allow 24 hours for that DNS to propagate. So Let's Encrypt can validate your site, can make sure that you are the owner of the site. But there have been cases to where, especially if you don't update your name servers as soon as you buy your hosting, it takes time once you update those name servers for it to generate. You can always check it though in cPanel. If you just type in at the top here, SSL, you can click SSL TSL Status. And make sure these are green, because that lets you know that it is. Don't worry about these other ones. This is like cPanel, webmail, and webdisk. You don't worry about these. You just need to worry about the main site. But if you had all red here, and I think these will install too over time once the DNS propagates for these. But you can click all this and click Run Auto SSL, and this will actually force the SSL certificate to run, or instead of waiting 24 hours, it'll force it to run. But your DNS does have to be propagated. So make sure you've updated those name servers before you do this, or you might have to click it again. So that's one way that you can check it and also forcefully run it. All right, so I'm gonna head back to my blog here. I want to show you how to do the WordPress caching plugin. And I've already logged myself out of WordPress. Let's see, And let's see if I got my password on here. Gray 2020. See if I still saved it on my clipboard. I'm gonna have to go through another way. Nope. Let's go back into here. So if you go to Softaculous WordPress, you can go to right here and log into admin. So that's another way, because again, I didn't save my password on there, so I can still get to it by clicking here. So yes, now I want to do that LiteSpeed Cash plugin. And again, this is free. So I'm going to go to Add New under beside plugins and type in LiteSpeed. Now, I will say, for you, those of you that already have WordPress installed, and if you're migrating from another host especially, you want to make sure that you remove other caching plugins. If you're moving over from HostGator, if you're moving over from SiteGround, make sure you remove your caching plugin you use there. LiteSpeed Cash won't work with other ones. You can't have two caching plugins. That will create some really nasty errors. So please make sure that you go deactivate it, and if they've installed anything and manually, make sure it's removed. And you can ask our support team to help if you need help with that. But don't activate, and most of the time it won't let you, or it'll kick an error, but that's just important. I recommend removing your other caching plugin if you have an existing site. But here it is, and you can see there's over 800,000 installations now, and the reviews are excellent. Last updated 3 weeks. So, whenever you're installing a plugin to WordPress, I recommend looking at these three things. One, look at the star ratings and how many. The higher it's rated, then it's a good plugin. The thing you're mainly looking for here is updates. Plugins are not only updates, but also how well they function. Sometimes developers will release stuff and it's not that good. And so this lets you know that it's rated very good. Actually, 973 people has rated this, 5 stars. Over 800,000 installations, and it was updated 3 weeks ago. So pay attention to this whenever you're installing plugins to make sure you're installing good plugins. There are bad plugins out there that will slow your site down, and some of them might even be malicious. And I know WordPress does a really good job about keeping the plugin marketplace clean, but I have seen some cases out there to where there's some bad stuff out there still. So just pay attention to that. Just an example I want to give you, like down here, WP Super Speed. It seems like it's a good plugin. It says Super Speed. He's running fast. You can look here. There's 4 reviews at 2.5 stars. There's 400 plus active installations, and it was last updated a year ago. Do not install stuff like that. I really wish WordPress would take that out. Take stuff like that out. I'm not saying that maybe that was good. At one point in time, but that's not something that you want to install. At NameHero, I'm telling you, all you need for speed is us here at NameHero. The infrastructure we've built has been specifically optimized for WordPress. LiteSpeed web server is already active at NameHero. It's default. This is the cache plugin, though. This is just an additional thing. So your site's going to be fast without LiteSpeed Cash. But if you really want to accelerate it, then you can install it and add it to your site. But besides this, I don't really recommend any other performance plugins out there. So, I know there's a lot of stuff throughout here when you look, but there's no need for it. You can also over optimize. So I'm going to click install now. And again, it's all free, one click, boom. All right, LiteSpeed Cash is now installed and activated. So, I'm not going to tell a difference on my site right now. If I go to Real Bonds, I've got the default theme. It's already going to be so fast I can't tell. Where you're going to notice the speed increase is when you have content on here, when you have content and it's loading. But with that said, let's just talk about some of the settings. By default, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. The settings on your WordPress LiteSpeed Cache. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, please don't go in and start making a bunch of changes. Obviously, it's enabled, but if you want to disable it, you can, or just disable the plugin. But this is the time to live for your cache and stuff, so don't go changing this stuff unless you specifically know what you're optimizing. If you're a web developer, then you probably know. If you're more server inclined, then you probably know as well. And maybe if you're getting your site audited by someone else out there, a third party, then maybe they're going to give you some suggestions. And depending on what plugins and themes you install, they might have suggestions too. But by default, all these settings should be just fine for you. There should be no need to ever change any of these, unless you're told. The automatic upgrade, you can click on and make sure that it automatically keeps this plugin upgraded. I do recommend that just so you don't have to worry about upgrading it. Some people will turn it off because they don't want a version to break their site if something doesn't work, but it's really up to you. LiteSpeed Cache, I haven't seen many instances of that. Cache, so this just says what is cache by default. So cache logged in users. Depending on how your site's coded, sometimes you might need to turn this off, at least temporarily, in case a logged in customer can't see new content, especially if you have a lot of dynamic content. It's on by default. I suggest leave it on, but if you need to turn it off, you can. And it's like this other stuff as well. Sometimes you might find the need to turn off some of these for specific plugins or for specific coding reasons. But if you're not a coder and you haven't been told to turn any of it off, don't. One thing that is off here is the Cache Mobile. So this is off by default, but you should turn that on. And then I'm gonna click Save. So Cache Mobile, so this means, if you go to your site on your mobile device, everyone carries the internet in their pocket nowadays, and they're gonna be accessing your site from their mobile phone. So you should absolutely turn that on. I think it's off by default because some themes out there, some sites handle mobile differently, and especially if you've been on your phone recently or been on your site recently, you wanna make sure you get those latest changes, but you should get around to enabling that once you're all set. But if you don't, I would go ahead and enable it by default, and you shouldn't notice anything different. So make sure you do that. Purge. So when you're caching stuff, this means that you keep the server caches the latest version of your style sheet of your site, so it pulls it really quick from the server. Now, if you go making changes, add a new theme, you go edit the theme, and those changes aren't showing up, then you might need to purge the cache. It means you flush that cache. And so this kind of gives you an overview of when this should happen. So auto publish or auto purge rules. So this tells LiteSpeed Cache, when you make edits to the front page, to purge the cache. When you make edits to the home page, purge the cache. When you edit pages, purge the cache. So this just tells the plugin, when you update something that might need to change the design look or feel or the content on the page, to make sure it flushes the cache. So you can control this. Again, I leave it default unless you have a specific reason. And if you need to schedule purge URLs, you can enter them in here and set a time to purge URLs at a certain time. But again, if you don't know what all this means, then don't worry about it. It works pretty much out of the box. As well as exclude settings. Sometimes we have seen that, some people have code or specific scripts or custom scripts or certain areas of their content management system or customer relationship management system for e-commerce, and they don't need URLs cached or specifically don't want stuff cached. This is where you would do that. Or if you want to force cache something as well, can be added in here. But as I said, by default, just leave everything as it is. Now I want to go to advanced options and talk about something here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you get into the advanced options, you've got optimize. So these are even more features of LiteSpeed Cache. Once again, if you don't know what you're doing, you probably should hang out of here and not. But this LiteSpeed Cache can actually minify your CSS. It can combine your CSS, your cascading style sheets. It can do HTTP pushes, HTTP2 pushes, which some of you are familiar with that. It basically loads the site even faster. It can minify your JavaScript, combine your JavaScript. So it can do a lot of even more things than it does out of the box. But once again, this could break things, especially if you have certain themes or plugins. So the thing is, here's what I recommend. If you don't know what you're doing, don't touch it. But if you do start modifying this stuff, make sure you know what you're doing, or you check it to check your site that it didn't break the site. Because I know some theme developers out there, they don't know what caching plugin you're using or what you're doing, and so they might not even consider this. And a lot of theme designers out there, they're trying to make a pretty looking theme. Some of them haven't necessarily coded it to be optimized. So a lot of times you can check with the theme developer and tell them what you're going to do, or just do it and see if it breaks the site. But you do have the option to do a ton of different features here that will benefit your site. They'll load it really fast. I know a lot of people like to use Cloudflare. But really, if you're using LiteSpeed Cache, there is no reason to use Cloudflare's caching, because then you're over caching the site. You're trying to cache here and Cloudflare. So you kind of want to pick one or the other. If you're using Cloudflare caching, don't worry about this. But if you're not using Cloudflare caching, then use this. And Cloudflare also has some of these, or many of all these same actions here as well. So that's it's your own discretion, what works best for your site. Tuning, again, this gets into just a little bit more, removing query strings, removing Google fonts, and just some other stuff that you can do to make the site even faster. I will say, for those of you that really are looking to get the most out of your site, you can really get some crazy fast results by going through these optimizing and tuning. But it's something that I don't want to go through individually, because it's so specific per site. There's the settings, and the advanced settings are very specific to your site, to your plugins, to your theme, to how often you update it. So there's many different things that play into factor here, but it does allow for a fantastic optimization, tuning, customization experience. So keep that in mind when you're wanting to, if you're wanting to do this, you can, but just make sure when you're doing stuff, you check the site, it doesn't break it, and you also remember kind of what you did so you can revert it back if need be. Media. So you can lazy load images, image excludes from lazy loading, lazy loading makes it go faster, and all kinds of stuff in here. Optimize losslessly. So this is whole image optimization you can do. Content delivery network. So I did mention Cloudflare. Now you can still use Cloudflare. Cloudflare is still beneficial because Cloudflare is more than this just caching. So Cloudflare also has their content delivery network, which is fantastic. So if you want to use Cloudflare, do it. But if you're using LiteSpeed caching, disable the Cloudflare caching, so you're not doing both. And maybe I'll do a video on that joint setup, so then you kind of know, because I feel like sometimes we get customers that come in and they have Cloudflare's caching set to aggressive. LiteSpeed's caching is all set to aggressive and stuff, and they run into issues because they're over-optimizing their site. You can't cache. It's too much caching. Cache on one end or the other. I like LiteSpeed Cash for my sites because it's working with the LiteSpeed web server, whereas Cloudflare, it's doing generalization caching based on a number of different web servers, because Cloudflare doesn't necessarily know you're using LiteSpeed web server. So it's up to you, but I always say, don't take my word for it. Test, don't guess, don't make assumptions. Test LiteSpeed Cache, test your site, see how fast it goes. Test Cloudflare's cache, see how fast your site goes. But regardless, you can integrate Cloudflare's API into here by entering your Cloudflare email address, your API key from Cloudflare, and you get that inside of Cloudflare.com and your domain. So you can enable the Cloudflare API to make sure that there's content delivery network and everything is optimized and working in conjunction with LiteSpeed Cache. And I think you have MaxCDN in there as well. And MaxCDN, this can be made from, this is not MaxCDN. So Cloudflare, and the other one's Quick Cloud API. So that's another one, another similar CDN to Cloudflare. ESI, so this is edge side includes. So this is, caching even more stuff such as the admin bar and stuff and short codes. This is really interesting too. I'm not going to go through this because it gets kind of in depth, but I will tell you on all these options, you'll see learn more links. And I mentioned how much I love the LiteSpeed team. Their documentation is really, really good. So, if you don't know about a certain feature, go to their help page and read about it. And they'll kind of tell you, what it is and how to do it and some suggestions. So, I do recommend checking that out. And especially if you're watching this and you're a WordPress developer or an advertising agency setting up for clients or a marketing agency or whatnot, and you're trying to optimize your client site, obviously this is where you make specific client-side optimizations, specific to that one site. So you might find it really beneficial to really reading the documentation in here, because I'm telling you, this plugin, it's free, but man, is it powerful. All right, to advanced. So the next thing here that I wanted to bring up specifically is the object caching. So LiteSpeed caching, by default, you're doing your dynamic, your PHP caching, your pages, the page part of WordPress, the style sheets, the fonts, and all that stuff. LiteSpeed Cache can also work with the object cache. So that's caching stuff from your database, because remember I said WordPress is files, which is your themes, your plugins, the core files, but then the database, which is all the data that makes up your site. So LiteSpeed Cache is going to be caching those files. But if you also want to cache stuff from the database so it retrieves the data quicker, you can use the object caching. You just have to turn it on. Now you're going to notice here you have to have either Memcache or Redis extension enabled in order to do this. So let me show you how you would do that. I'm going to go back into cPanel, and at the top in the search box, just type in PHP. And go to select PHP version. Click on, give it a second, switch to PHP options. Back to extensions. Go down here, click on Redis, and then Memcached. Back here, settings. And now if I refresh this page, you'll see Memcache extension enabled, Redis extension enabled. So you have to use one or the other, Memcache or Redis. We have some information on our YouTube channel about which one's best for you, but you can also read through here, and they give a lot of information about it, about which one does better. But you can also, again, like I said, don't guess, test with Memcache, test with Redis, and you make the decision. But all you have to do to turn it on is, one, enable the extensions in PHP, and then click on. Memcache is probably most popular out there, so I can just leave that default and go down here to save all settings. All right, so now it is enabled. Now there's a bunch of other stuff you can add here. You don't need a username and password. The do not cache groups. So this is stuff that it's not going to cache from the database, your comments, your counts, your plugins, and the session ID. This stuff could cause issues with users reading your content, especially if they're making comments and it's caching the comments, then you're not going to see new comments come up until the cache purges. So this is why you would put stuff in the do not cache groups. And then here's the global groups that are out there. It's kind of what it is, caching. So if you needed to, if maybe you wanted to, if you had a lot of users signing up, you might not want to cache the users' data. So you put it in the do not cache groups. But there's other options here that you can mess with, like persistent connection, cache the WP admin. Some people don't like to cache the admin area, again, because if they're making changes, then it might not update as quick. And it says even here, it may encounter expired data. So you might want to kill that off. And go down here to save once you do that. Because sometimes if you don't, it won't save things correctly. So that's something you might want to keep off there as well. Browser cache, this is an on or off. This will allow the user's browser to actually cache data. It can make things even faster. It's got the check advanced cache file. Login cookie. So if you have a WordPress site where people are logging in, you have to be very careful, especially when you go to caching your database stuff, to make sure that you're not killing that login cookie, because that could kill the session when someone's logging in. So you don't want to really go through here and really look through here carefully before making changes. The last thing I will say is instant click. This is cool because it does speed up your pages, meaning that when they hover over a link, it'll automatically start warming that up, preloading it, but it will use extra resources on your account. So if you've bought like the basic web hosting package, you might find yourself needing to upgrade to that business package sooner than later for instant click. So, do all this with that in mind, but also take it in mind, this is for advanced users. If you don't know what you're doing, you probably don't need to be digging down in here yet. Our team, we can provide suggestions, but we cannot, we don't provide full website optimization services. That would be more of there would have to be some type of fee involved in that, because if we took all the websites we host and we went into their LiteSpeed Cash and went through the advanced settings, we wouldn't have enough time in a day. So this is more for those of you watching this video that have clients and you're trying to optimize for your client. You have the ability to optimize pretty much everything, from just your static to your dynamic, to your object caching. And again, all this is free. It's a lot of competitors out from NameHero. They charge for stuff like this big time, and I can promise you it's much more than $5.95 a month or whatever our lowest package is. So you get a huge value, but again, you just want to be careful when you're doing this stuff, because this plugin is very, very, very strong. Out of the box, it works just fine. But if you go messing with this stuff, then you have to make sure it doesn't break your site, and also the functionality is still good of the site. There's debugging stuff, so you can click to learn more, to learn how to debug it if you do break the site. I've played around in here for a long time because I've broke stuff before too, so I've used the debug logger. There's a crawler setting. The crawler is pretty cool too, because the crawler will actually run and warm up the site, warm up the cache. So, when a site's cached, it takes time for the first time someone hits a site, it's pulling from that cache has to generate. The crawler will actually warm it up, and this will explain more. But like that instant click, it uses more resources. So if you're on the very smallest package we have at NameHero, you might find yourself needing to upgrade sooner than later because you're implementing all these features. So with the advanced features of LiteSpeed Cash, don't recommend for the novice user, but if you know what you're doing, then I do recommend it. And also, you need to understand how the site you're optimizing functions. If the site has logins, if you have a lot of plugins, especially for you e-commerce folks out there, this can be a great speed optimizer, but you got to make sure that everything's still functioning on your site. When you're playing with caching, you get into adding products to carts and going to checkout and entering information and registering and processing orders. You have to make sure those systems stay in place, and you're also consulting with your theme developers, your vendors, your plugin vendors, your WooCommerce setup to make sure you don't break anything. I can't give that disclaimer enough, because what I don't want to see happen is people that start making all these changes and it breaks their sites, and they're like, well, what Ryan said that you recommended it. Well, I recommend it if you know specifically what you're doing and you know in advance that caching stuff, especially in the database, can cause some expired content stuff. So make sure you're going through documentation and not just going through here clicking recklessly. Make sure you really understand when you're changing something, what exactly it's going to do and how can you go test it to make sure the integrity of the site and the functionality of the site is great. But I guess in final here, I can't say enough about LiteSpeed Cache. It is such a powerful caching plugin. It is such a powerful feature to have on your site. It really just puts the cherry on the top of stuff here at NameHero. And it's all 100% free, all free on our hosting. Works great. And you don't have to pay extra for it. So, I really feel that this alone would be worth $5.95, $10.95 a month. And it just comes with all of our hosting packages on our web hosting and reseller hosting side. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Again, I'd get into doing speed tests and benchmarks over here, but with the default site, you're not going to notice much of a difference. So, some people will say that too. Well, I did all that and I don't notice a difference. Well, you're probably not going to on just a site with nothing on it. But, add some images, add some content, add a lot of images, add a lot of content, and you'll really notice a difference, man. I'll tell you what, some sites I've seen with a lot of images and database calls and stuff, I've seen them go from 15 seconds to 1 second to 500 milliseconds with properly tuned LiteSpeed Cache, the LiteSpeed Cache properly tuned. And that's not to mention with our already high-speed infrastructure here at NameHero that we're using. And, so it's really a win-win-win-win situation. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to let me know. I always recommend here on our YouTube channel, if this video helped you out and you said, man, that's awesome, I didn't know I could really do all that, give us a thumbs up on the video. If you didn't like it, you say, this video sucked, it didn't help me at all, I already knew all that, give me a thumbs down. Because what I do is I look at the thumbs up and thumbs down, and I say, well, if people like the video and I get more and more thumbs up, then I need to do a whole other video, maybe in a video series on LiteSpeed Cache. Maybe I need to set up websites with tons of content and show benchmarks, and I just show what exactly they can do in certain areas of it. But if I'm getting a lot of thumbs down, then I know that maybe this is not something that interests you, not the type of content I need to be producing. Regardless of what you decide, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This helps you know of upcoming sales, of new features of NameHero, and also really to make the most out of your NameHero account, because I try to do tons of instructional videos. I believe that the more educated our customers and even potential customers are, the more they get out of their hosting account, the better they use it, the better their websites become, the better their clients' websites become. So, I really recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel if you have not. It's 100% free. Just click subscribe. You just have to log into your Google account and you're all good to go. But that said, thanks for watching and using us here at NameHero.com.